This is our session on the Illinois High School Equivalency testing updates. So my name is Dawn Hughes, and I'm going to be your moderator for today's session. Jennifer Phillips is also with us, and she is on as tech support. So if you need anything, please use the chat feature if you need any help. And again, this session is titled the Illinois High School Equivalency Testing Updates, and today it's going to be presented by Caitlyn Barnes, Brian Smith, and Jason Carter. So just as a reminder, all of our participants in this session are in listen-only mode. Please post any of your questions or your comments in the chat box, and we'll address them towards the end of the session. The session is being recorded. All the materials have already been loaded into the Whova app, so you can access those materials there. And then we will also be putting the materials on the Forum for Excellence webpage. So I will post that link in the chat in just a little bit. So I am going to now turn things over to Caitlyn, and here you go.
All right. Okay, so as Dawn said, my name is Caitlyn Barnes. I'm the director for high school equivalency testing at the Illinois Community College Board. I'm sure I know most of you, if not all. And I'm just going to be giving you some statewide updates. I'm going to talk really fast. I've got a lot of information to cover. If you have any questions for me, please throw them in the chat and I'll answer them after I'm done speaking, just so that I can make sure that I save enough time for everyone else. So the things I'm going to cover with you today, just a little data update on fiscal year 2020 and calendar year 2020 so far. Then some COVID-19 changes to our in-person testing requirements, some online options that are available that Brian and Jason will speak to as well, some information on the Constitution test. Then I have some good news about a high school equivalency testing discount that's available for your test takers. And then some news on TASK, which will no longer be offered in the state after December 31st. And then just a few little housekeeping announcements. So high school equivalency testing data, starting out with fiscal year 2020. This past fiscal year, we had just under 10,000 test takers. And if you've watched any of my presentations before, you know that number is low for Illinois. We've had an overall testing volume drop between fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 2020 of about 28%. And we can contribute that, of course, mostly to COVID-19. Between the end of March and the beginning of June, there was no testing available in the state of Illinois, with the exception of corrections facilities. And then in-person testing resumed on June 15th of 2020. Our pass rate is also slightly down. Between fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 2020, we had a drop of about 3%, but that is consistent with the national decline. If we look at a comparison of fiscal years, again, you've seen my presentations below, you know that we were kind of catching our way back up to changes from fiscal year 15 when the GED exam switched, and kind of leveling back off until, of course, fiscal year 20, when we've had this significant drop. In calendar year 2020 thus far, we've had about 5,590 test takers and 1,929 passers. So we have a pass rate right now of about 69% compared to what GED presents as its national pass rate of 71%. Again, that pass rate is pretty consistent for us. We're usually 1 to 2 percentage points below the national average, but it is significantly down, and it's down nationally as well. And overall testing volume is significantly down by about 47% from last calendar year at the same time. So now I want to cover some changes that are happening for high school equivalency due to COVID-19, starting with new in-person testing requirements. So if you are currently a test site open to test takers at this time during the COVID-19 pandemic, there are new guidelines that you are required to follow, presented by the Department of Health and ICCB, that cover how to maintain safe social distancing during this time. So inside your test site, all of participants, all test takers, all staff, all proctors need to maintain social distancing at all times of a minimum of 6 feet and with groups of 10 or fewer. So that may restrict your testing volume, but it is currently a requirement. Masks are also required for all staff, all proctors, and all test candidates. You can supply new masks to candidates at your test site facility if you would like, or they can bring their own. If they bring their own, you may examine it according to vendor guidelines for test security. So just making sure there's no writing, no anything tucked in the inside or the outside of the mask. And you will be able to ask and should ask them to pull down their facial covering just once when they are verifying their ID. So you'll have them give you their photo ID, step back 6 feet, pull the mask down to demonstrate that their face does match the photo on the photo ID, pull the mask back up, and gather their documentation back from you. We also are requiring in-person health screenings following IDPH guidelines. So that resource is linked here. And of course, as Dawn said, these presentation materials are uploaded in the HUVA app. Those are questions that will ask symptoms that a candidate might have, if they've had a positive or a pending COVID-19 test, things of that nature, to make sure that we are not letting in folks who are currently experiencing symptoms or who have not had a negative test result if they have had symptoms in the past. We are also requiring that you regularly clean all of your common high-touch areas and materials. So if you're a computer-based site, all the keyboards, mice, things of that nature. If you're a paper-based site for HiSet, then or task, your pencils, your papers, things of that nature as well. Making sure that all of your high-touch areas are kept clean, and that we would require you to provide readily available hand sanitizer and sanitizing products for students and staff to use. The complete ICCD requirements are available on our website in several places, and you can access them through that PDF link here. And then please make sure that you are aware that test centers may also have additional vendor guidelines to follow. If you cannot safely follow these guidelines, we ask that you stay close at this time. If we do find out that a test site is not following appropriate procedures, we will ask you to close. So please bear that in mind. There are online testing options available for your students and test takers at this time through GED and through HiSet. So if you don't have an open in-person test site in your area, or if the student would simply just prefer not to test in person at this time, you can take their exams online. Both exams require the student to have a laptop or desktop computer that has a microphone and a camera, either built in or attached. They'll need a stable internet connection, and they have to be testing in a closed and quiet room without interruptions. So no pets, no family members coming in and out, no kids coming in and out. It needs to be a closed and quiet room. Just like for our in-person tests, candidates need to meet Illinois residency requirements. They cannot have a high school diploma already, and they must be fully withdrawn from high school in order to test. But other age and eligibility requirements differ by exam. So I'm going to talk about those in brief, and then Brian and Jason will have some more information on the online testing options for their specific exams. For the GED exam, the online testing option is called OnView. It has the same price as the in-person exam. And for this exam, a GED Ready practice test is a requirement. So if the student wants to take their test online for GED, they do need to take GED Ready and score in the green, which is ready to test for each subject that they want to take. The GED online exam is now available for ages 16 and up. So a minor must have a parent or guardian available for them during the check-in process, though, in order to start their exam. If they sign up for a test and that parent or guardian does not appear during the check-in process, they won't be allowed to test. So make sure that they understand that requirement. And then Illinois' withdrawal documentation requirements still apply. So 17-year-olds would need to provide withdrawal documentation from their last public or private high school. 16-year-olds would not be eligible to test unless they're currently enrolled in one of these specialized programs, an ALOP, an RSSP, or Lincoln's Challenge Academy. The GED exam is currently available in English online, but a Spanish release is pending, which Brian will talk about. And you would register and schedule for this online exam just like normal on GED.com. For HiSet, the online option is called HiSet Exam at Home. The price is slightly higher than the computer-based or paper-based test. It's $141.25, but you can use our discount on that, which we'll talk about here in a few slides. For the HiSET exam online, a practice test score is not required, but of course we would always recommend it. And it is currently available only for ages 18 and up. The HiSET exam online is available in English and in Spanish. So if you have a Spanish test taker that wants to take an exam, HiSET is available for them right now. And they would register on hiset.ets.org through their HiSET profile, but then they will be directed to Proctor U to complete registration and schedule an exam time. So there is an additional step for that online exam option. I pulled some data to try to take a look at how candidates are testing. Take this with a grain of salt, because one thing it is difficult to tell is whether or not a candidate is testing at a corrections facility. So some of this may be a little skewed. But for GED testing, we're still seeing primarily testing between June 1st and September 18th being done in person. I would attribute that to more of our test sites at our community colleges being open again. And then for HiSET testing, we're seeing more of our testing being done online, about 57% versus about 41% for in-person testing. A brief update on the Constitution test. This has been a challenge for our test takers because this test must still be proctored in person. We do not have an online option available for this test, nor a way to develop one quickly. So right now, our community college board, I'm maintaining a map of Constitution test sites that are open and accepting appointments from what we call walk-in test takers, by which I mean students who are not directly associated to an adult education program. So if your site is open and it is taking appointments from non-students, please let me know and I'll add you to the map if you're not already on it. And you can access the map here, this link in the presentation, but you can also find it in several spaces on our website. And it is a Google map, so if a student opens it, they click any point on the map, they can find test site contact information, a phone number or email address, depending on how the site wants to be contacted, an address for the site, a website if applicable, and that gives them information on how to schedule an appointment. So if you have any changes to the site, if you want to be added or if you need to update your information, please notify me by email. We do know that even though some of our test sites are open, there are much more of a difficulty taking the Constitution test right now than it is to take a high school equivalency exam. So if you have a student who lives in an area where they cannot find a Constitution test site, a provisional waiver is still available. The current waiver expires at the end of this month and students have until December to complete their exams, but we intend to, again, extend that. So what the provisional waiver does is it's a letter that the student can attach to their official transcripts that simply indicates why they're not able to take that final requirement at this time. But however, we do recommend if a student can find a test site that they do take their Constitution test as soon as possible, because we cannot print out a high school equivalency certificate for any candidate who has not completed that requirement. So the provisional waiver is available, but their certificate would not be until that requirement is done. And in order to obtain a provisional waiver, the candidate who has completed all of their high school equivalency test subjects, so GED, HiSET, or TASC, would go to their regional office of education to request that provisional waiver document. Now for some good news. Everybody likes good news. Last month, on August 31st, the ICCB released over $500,000 in grant funding to reduce the cost of the GED and HiSET test for Illinois residents. This is both to, of course, help test takers take their tests and to hopefully spur more testing to get our numbers back up to a bit closer to their normal baseline. So the discount provides $80 off of the full battery of tests, regardless of which exam the student is taking. If they're taking the GED test, that is an equivalent of $20 off each subject for 4 subjects. And if they're taking the HiSET test, that would be $16 off each subject for 5 subjects. This applies to tests that are purchased at full price, so they cannot use a discount on their pre-discounted retakes. And the promotion is going to be available until the funding is depleted. So there's not a set expiration date. It can cross fiscal years. It would just expire when the funding is depleted. This discount is available to all Illinois test takers, whether they're testing in person, computer, paper, or if they're testing online. And you can use this for your students, and we'll talk about how. So for the GED exam, the discount applies the same way whether you're taking the computer-based exam or the online exam. It takes your total test price down to $40. In order to use the discount, you would register and schedule online at GED.com, just like normal. But when you go to pay, you would use the discount code ILSAVE20 to take that $20 off each subject. The discount code can be used with vouchers for the GED exam, but only if the vouchers are in the exact amount that the student has left to pay. So that would be $10 per subject. If you have full price vouchers, you cannot use a full price voucher in combination with the discount code. There's no way to rebate or refund you for that overpayment. You can still use your vouchers if you would prefer to pay for the full price of the student's exam, but if you'd rather hold on to the $30 vouchers, you can do that as well. If they get close to nearing expiration, you can extend them by contacting GED Testing Service. For the HiSET test, HiSET has tiered pricing. So for the computer-based exam, after using a discount for the full battery, the student would pay $13.75. For paper-based, they would pay $35, and for the online exam, they would pay $61.25. So the cost is going to differ based on what type of exam they're taking. In order to use the discount, they would need to call Educational Testing Services customer support line at 1-855-MY-HiSET, with a number off to the right. And the discount code for HiSET cannot be combined with vouchers. It's considered both to be a promo code, and we can only use one promo code per product. So if you have HiSET vouchers that pay for the entire cost of a student's exam and you would prefer to use those, you're welcome to. If the student will be using the discount code, they would pay the remaining amount using their credit or debit card. And if you do have vouchers and you want to hang on to those for HiSET as well, that is fine. If they start to near expiration, you can extend them by contacting ETS. A brief update on the TASC exam. TASC will no longer be available in Illinois as of December 31st of this year. TASC has decided to pull out of pretty much every state that it is not the sole source provider in, so we're not the only one losing a TASC exam. Candidates who had partial completion of their TASC exam were notified using the contact information we had on file for them, and they were told that they do have until December 31st to finish their TASC exam requirements. If the student does not finish the TASC exam, they would need to transition to GED or HiSET, which was also explained in the letter they received. And partial TASC scores, unfortunately, can't be combined with GED or HiSET scores. Scoring systems are too different, and our database does not support that. If the student did already complete their TASC exam and pass all subjects, those completed credentials will always remain valid. So if you have students that see this announcement and worry, because this was the exam of their choice, please let them know that their credential is still valid. And if you are currently offering the TASC exam, we do highly encourage you to apply to offer the GED exam or the HiSET exam or both, depending on what formats of the test you'd like to offer. And then just a few general housekeeping notes. If you'd like to apply to become a test site, you can do so. You can apply to offer any combination of the high school equivalency exams. There are forms available in your provider manual or on the ICCB website at 2 separate locations linked here. And those would come to me for review. It's just a 2-pager, really simple application process. If you need access to GED Manager, that access is available to all staff in an ICCB funded adult education program. Your adult education administrator does need to fill out the form and approve your access and indicate that they understand that they are responsible for the use of their staff members' data. Those forms are available in your adult education provider manual as well, or in 2 spaces on the ICCB website. Please do not use the form on GED.com to request access. If you do, GED's operations teams will just redirect your request to me anyway. So save yourself a step, use the forms in your provider manual, and I will help you get access to GED Manager. And then for withdrawal documentation, I'm sure everyone knows these requirements, but withdrawal documentation is required for 16 and 17-year-old test takers, regardless of whether they're testing in person or online. Withdrawal letters for underage test takers need to be on school letterhead. They must be signed by a school official. They need to include the candidate's full name and date of birth, and they must include a withdrawal date. I do not accept transcripts as proof of withdrawal unless they include a formal withdrawal date and signature of the school official. I know we run into that quite a lot in Chicagoland area. So please make sure that you're getting that signature of the school official and including that formal withdrawal date. If you are a HiSET test taker, you have to provide an ETS ID. So if your program uses HiSET, please remember that I have to have that ETS ID to clear your students. And if you're submitting documentation for your students, please make sure they have their account already created. Otherwise, we can't clear them to test. During the time of COVID-19, our staff is working primarily remotely. So I highly encourage you to submit any documentation that you need to turn in by email at this time, rather than using our fax number. If you need to reach out to for HSE support, please reach out to us by email. So you can reach me at the email address below, caitlin.e.barnes@illinois.gov. Any withdrawal documentation, database access requests, anything of that nature should go to our high school equivalency inbox. If you need technical support for the high school equivalency database, reach out to the Cook County High School Equivalency Records Office. They're also working primarily remotely, so please use their email address below. And if you have issues related to Daisy and Pintaho, please remember that I am Caitlin, not Kate. So if you have issues related to Daisy, please reach out to the Kate team at daisysupport@kate.org, or you can contact our new staff member, Cece, and she would be happy to help you as well. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to drop them in the chat, or if you want to email me after the fact, my email address is here. Thank you.
Is it GED or HiSET?
Dawn, did we have a particular order?
No, either one is fine. I think in the description it was GED was next.
All right, I will go.
Okay.
All right, can you see my screen properly?
Yes. Perfect.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Smith. I am the State Relationship Manager for Illinois for GED Testing Service. I see a lot of familiar names, so it's good to at least see your names, even though we haven't seen each other in a while. So I'd like to also thank Dawn and everyone with the Forum for Excellence for having us here and being able to present, because this is definitely a unique time, and I'm excited to share some of the stuff we're doing. So just these are kind of the things I'm going to cover. I'm going to talk about some of our resources and then give you a little more information about our online Proctor test, and then talk a little bit about some new products we have that might be useful for you during this distance learning period. So first, I wanted to start off with making sure you all are familiar with our resources that we have out there. At the beginning of sort of this COVID quarantine, we did a really great Tuesdays for Teacher webinar. Susan Pittman, if you know her, and Debbie Fawcett, and I even make a cameo in the presentation. But we really focused on free resources really focused on distance learning resources. So if you're looking for professional development opportunities, you're looking for more online resources, we did a great job. Please go to this link on our professional development part. Watch that webinar that we did on distance learning. I think it would really help all of you, because they really went through and found some of the best online resources to help people teach during this time of distance learning. We also have a COVID-19 resources page. So this is where we're putting updates about testing centers, about the GED test during this period. If there is another shutdown, you can look for information there. We just have a ton of resources around what's going on, including some of the distance learning things we're doing. So please take a look at that page too. Now I want to talk a little bit about the online Proctor GED test and just go into a little more depth than what Caitlin did. The online Proctor GED test is still in a pilot phase. So we sort of moved quickly once everything shut down. We didn't have it up and running, so we had to work to get everything created within the Pearson View system, and their online proctoring program is called OnView. So now test takers can take the GED test from the comfort of their home. It is online and is continually monitored by a trained proctor along with artificial intelligence. So someone's watching them while they're taking the test to make sure they're not doing anything improper. But we also have artificial intelligence that's looking at other things like eye movement. They're looking off the screen. So we're really doing our best that we can to monitor and make sure we're protecting the integrity of the test. We are not moving away from traditional in-person testing centers. This was really a stopgap, and I know Illinois was one of the states that was hit the hardest at the beginning, and the testing centers were closed for a long period of time. So we felt it was important to have this option for people, even now that things are open, that if they're not comfortable going into a testing center, they do have this option. It was started in late May. We have expanded access as quickly as possible. More than 2,000 students have credentialed just on OnView. So I think Caitlyn gave you some Illinois-specific numbers earlier. So what students are eligible? As Caitlyn mentioned, it does require a laptop or a computer, camera, microphone, and stable internet connection. They must be in an enclosed room with a door that can be shut, quiet environment, no other individuals in the room. They have to have a government-issued ID. That's what the proctors will be looking for. The system we use is the same system that takes place when you go through TSA if you're flying. That's the way our system checks the ID, so it does have to be a government-issued ID. They must score 145 or higher, which is the green level on the GED Ready test, within the past 60 days. This is, again, just another safeguard we have in place. As you probably can imagine, we're a little more concerned with test security with online proctoring because there isn't an actual in-person proctor watching them. So this is another safeguard we have in place to make sure that people who are taking the test are prepared and ready and that they can pass the test. We do have limited test accommodations right now. We do have the time extensions, but a bunch more are coming in the next month or so. So make sure your students are aware of the OP testing option, help them study and make sure they get that 145, the green level, make sure they have it within the past 60 days. We've had some people who took their GED Ready 2 years ago and wondering why they can't take it. It needs to be within the past 60 days. And we highly recommend students do a system check before they actually schedule an OP test appointment. The system check will allow them to check their internet connection, allow them to check their camera and microphone so that they're not scheduling a test that their computer wouldn't potentially be able to execute. So we have that available on our website. Make sure your students know that they check to make sure that where they're going to be taking the tests, that it will work when it's testing day. You can use GED test vouchers for online proctoring, just like you can use them for in-person. You can use that Illinois Save 20 code for online proctoring, just like you can use it for in-person testing. And then take advantage of all the resources we have out there to prepare your students for the experience that is online proctoring, because it is a little different than an in-person testing center. So specifically, that's going to mean the online calculator. They have to use the online calculator on the online proctor test. They can no longer bring in a handheld TI-30XS calculator. It's just a security reason. They have to use the on-screen calculator. So we do have a tutorial. We highly encourage you all to make sure they use that tutorial. Also, we now give them a scratch pad. So this is in lieu of getting the dry erase boards. We really haven't approved the dry erase boards now. That's a major security risk with an online proctor test because the camera can only see so much. We don't want someone writing down test questions and taking them out and then having those test questions sort of put the whole test in jeopardy once they get out there. So we do not have the online, or we don't have the dry erase board that they would get if they go to a testing center. So they have to use the scratch pad. The scratch pad's really helpful, I think, for the writing part if you're taking notes. So use the scratch pad. They have available to that. They can type in, they can adjust that screen so it's bigger. They have access to that. And then they also now have access to an on-screen whiteboard. I think the on-screen whiteboard's best for doing math problems because you're able to write with your mouse on this on-screen board. So But again, it's a little unique, and I would highly recommend your students practice with it before they actually take the test. So we do have this available on our website where they can practice with it, because it's a little different than what they would be doing if they're physically writing for something. But this is, I think, best for students who might need to work out a math problem. So we have an online Proctor webpage with all the information you'll need. That's the website. Go there, you'll see the whiteboard and the scratch pad. You'll see we've got great videos that explain how online Proctor GED test works. So please take advantage of that webpage. That's where we put everything relevant to GED testing. I want to quickly just walk through the student experience really quickly. I'm going to go through these slides quickly, but you can download the slides and refer to them. But I just want to give you a sense of what the students are going through if they're scheduling an online Proctor GED test. Again, this is the Learn More page. When they're clicking that through their GED.com portal, it'll take them to that Learn More page where we have all the resources they'll need for online proctoring. We spell it out for the students what they need to test online. So you see, I kind of went over those before. They need the computer, webcam, internet, the private space, the government issued ID, and the GED Ready Green score. It walks them through how it works. So there you see there's a link right there to perform a system test. So we're trying to make sure everyone does that system test before they schedule their appointment, make sure that it will work. We tell them about the GED Ready Green. We encourage them to log in 30 minutes before their test appointment to launch your test, because you do have to go through a process in order to get started. As long as you started that process, it's available 30 minutes before your test starts and up until 15 minutes after. If you log in and try to start 20 minutes after, it's no longer going to be there. So make sure that they arrive early to start the process to test. And then they'll follow the on-screen steps that I'll walk you through, and then they'll be able to take the test. Sorry, I'm going the wrong direction. So this is the process. They'll get a GED Ready Green. It'll allow them to schedule their test. You see when the student clicks to schedule the test, it gives them the option, right? They can schedule the online test, or they can find a testing center. So they get to make the choice. You'll see we have another link to the system check there. It's all over the GED.com account, because we really want to make sure students do that system check before they take the test. They'll select their subject, they select their appointment time. I will say what's great about OnView is if you've had students take it, you'll know that we have way more appointment times than we do in traditional testing centers. So we have a lot of people who want to take the test late at night when their kids are asleep. And now we have just so many more appointments. Normally a testing center wouldn't be open at 9, 10 o'clock at night, but OnView does have appointments. So this has been, I think, really helpful for a lot of people who don't have a flexible schedule for when they want to take the test. Once they select their appointment, it's going to go through all the policies, and it'll spell out all the policies, including the ID policies, and policies about what's going to happen when they're taking the test. Then it'll take them to the payment. This is where they easily can enter that voucher and promotion code you see right there. They have a voucher, they can use it there. They should all be using the Illinois Save 20. That's available for them to take $20 off each test. This is where they would put that in there for both in-person and online proctored testing. And as Caitlyn mentioned, if they are going to use a voucher code after using that Illinois promo, it has to be one of those $10 vouchers, so it lines up. You'll see this is someone who used a full promo code, and then it'll take them to test day. So this is test day. This is what will show up in the student's GED.com account. You'll see there it says launch. It's your appointment time. So the student will select launch, and then it walks them through how to prepare their workspace, because they need to make sure there aren't distractions, the doors are closed, that everything's off their desk, right? They can't have a TV on or a computer to monitor somewhere else on, so that they make sure all of that's shut down. They can't have food or drinks, except they can have a clear glass of water if they want that. Then it'll take them through to begin the exam. And this is just the process they have to go through. So they'll click and download the OnView version. It's a really easy, simple process. It automatically downloads the app for them and pulls it up on their screen. They'll copy that access code. They'll enter that access code and their phone number. This is in case a proctor needs to call them. Usually everything's done by chat, but they need to have a cell phone number there in case they need to call them. And then it walks them through the check-in process. So this is what they'll go through. They'll go through a system check. They'll go through and provide a picture of themselves, a selfie, a picture of the room, provide a picture of their ID, a government-issued ID, and all of the workspace. Once you go through all of that, it shows that it's checked, the internet speed, the microphone, camera, all the photos. You sort of go off screen for this. We don't have pictures of this because it's not something you can take a screenshot of. But we give them all of the information they're going to need for that process for taking photos. Pretty simple. And then it gives them another exam reminder so that they can't have scratch paper, they can't have their phone out, they can't have, an Apple Watch, anything. Everything has to be put away. And then they'll launch their exam. And then they'll usually wait in the queue for about 10, 15 seconds, maybe a little longer if a proctor's not there, but a proctor will pick them up and let them know that they can start the test. If they do have an accommodation, approved accommodation, the proctor does see what the accommodation is, and they'll react accordingly. So if it's extra time or if it's extra breaks, they will have that approved. So just quickly, the timeline on OP is underage testers are now available. They've been able to test since September 1st. The Spanish version is going to be available October 1st. The retake policy, we will have now a retake on online proctor tests. That'll be available October 1st. And then we already have accommodations for 25% and 50% extra time. Additional ones like extra breaks and everything will be coming in November. And then we're working with Illinois to figure out what this will look like post-pilot. We'll work with each state on how they want to use it post, once everything, knock on wood, gets back to normal soon. Also, if you do have GED Manager access, you can now, through the Student Test Activity Report, check your students who took OnView. That is now a filter. So you just change that OnView to yes, and you can see which students took an OnView test. And then, again, this is just our link to our resource page, which you should go to. And then finally, the last two slides, I just want to let you know in this time of distance learning that we do have some paid products with Aztec software. GED Flash, it's like flashcards, really helps students get over the hump if you're looking for access to basically unlimited practice questions with answer explanations. It's been a really useful tool. I know some of the programs in Illinois have already purchased it, and I think they really enjoy it. So that's available. It also has great reporting features for adult educators. You can track your students' time and see how much time they put in and what questions they're getting right. It also has, we've launched another product with Aztec, which is really great for this distance learning period, called GED Play. It is free, sorry, not free, it is online videos of actual teachers going through content. It pairs nicely with GED Flash because they can take a class, learn a skill, and then go practice it on GED Flash. Just want to let you know that we do have a promo during this period, 10% off. So if you're interested in either of those products, just email me at brian.smith@ged.com and we can get you that promotion, that 10% off. And so with that, I will leave you with my contact information. I think most of you probably already have it, but there it is if you don't. And with that, I thank you all for joining this, and I'll turn it over to Jason.
Yes, thank you so much, Brian. While Jason is getting set up, and in the chat, we don't have any questions for you right now, but I would like to remind people that if you do have any questions, to put those in the Whova app chat feature. All right. And we can see your screen, Jason, so that looks good.
Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Carter. I'm the National Executive Director for the HiSET program. I'm going to be walking you through our HiSET 2020 program updates. As Dawn mentioned, if there's any questions, just feel free to throw those in the chat box, and we'll get those answered for you. But before I get started too, I just wanted to add, hope everyone's being safe during COVID. And, I know these are kind of unprecedented times, but just wanted to extend myself and our team and let you guys know that we're all here to support in any way that we can. Just a quick overview of the HiSET exam. As Caitlyn mentioned, 5 sections: reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. 100% multiple choice except for our essay question in the writing section. and it's about 7 hours of testing. I know Caitlyn mentioned the fees, but just a quick breakdown of the computer-based fee, $10.75 plus the test center fee. The paper-based is a $15 fee plus the test center fee. And then the HiSET at-home exam is $10.75 plus the remote test center fee, which is a little higher than the standard test center fee. And then the two free retakes that they do not include the test center fee. This slide's just a quick updates on coronavirus for test centers and test takers. If test centers have closure information or updates, they can reach out to our test administrative services group. The contact information is here. And also this presentation is in the WOVA app. So if you would like to download this and access the links or contact information directly, you can do so. For last minute test taker cancellations, test takers can reach out to our test taker services group. That's 1-855-MY-HiSET. And then in terms of test takers and students in the centers, you may expect some of them to wear gloves and or mask. And just as Caitlyn mentioned, there's a number of criteria that will be in place at the centers in person. So, you know, we're totally in support of those, just making sure everyone's safe. So what's new with the HiSET exam? Since we launched the HiSET exam, we've had more than 10,000 tests at home registrations. Test takers can register through their My HiSET account. There's no prerequisite to qualify. So, you know, a test taker could go and take the HiSET's free practice test on their own and then sign up to take My HiSET at home as long as they meet all of the necessary Illinois requirements. Same retesting policies apply for at home as apply for the in-person testing, and available retest credits apply. One other thing to add is our right now, I know Caitlyn mentioned we have the 2 steps where you go to the HiSET profile and then it brings you to Proctor U. By the end of the year, that will just be kind of one stop, and you'll be able to just register straight through the HiSET website. Testing is available, English and Spanish, and accommodations 15 hours a day and 7 days a week. So as Brian mentioned, with the expanded hours, we can, you know, catch a lot of those folks who, you know, may not have the availability with shorter testing times. And the other thing to mention, adult ed access portal will be coming soon. So approved adult education staff will have the opportunity to log in and see their student scores in the HiSET portal as well. Another thing to add too, we'll right now all of the registrations for at home with the discount, with the Illinois discount, you can call in and our customer service reps will get you registered, but we will also be launching a promo code as well by the end of this year. So some facts about the HiSET exam at home. Testing takes place on a test taker's personal computer or at another secure location. Currently, we do not support testing on tablets or mobile phones. Test sessions are monitored in real time through human proctors and artificial intelligence. They're also recorded. If there's any concerns, we can always go back and watch those videos. And as I mentioned earlier, the test center fee is $17.50 per subtest. And then the state administration fee are the same as well as the ETS test fee. Just a quick overview of our HiSET exam at home preparation checklist. We recommend that test takers click these links, check the preparation checklist, and take a look at a quick video that just gives them an overview of the process. First, it'll take them through equipment and environment requirements so they know, what's allowed in the room and what's necessary from their computer. You'll start your registration with ETS, complete your registration with your test date and time with Proctor U. You'll learn about the testing procedures and experience, what to expect on test day. And then after the test, you'll receive the necessary information about your scores and retesting if necessary. And then this is just as a resource moving forward, just some quick links for HiSET resources. So the state requirements for Illinois, how to sign up to create your free My HiSET account, learn more about what's on the test, the content and subject areas, the link to our free practice tests, and then a link to some distance learning support for educators as well. So hopefully this can serve as a resource to folks on this presentation. And if you'd like to share it, you can feel free to do that as well. And just to add, my contact information is jcarter@ets.org. So if there's any questions that may or may not have come up in the chat or you'd like to follow up on after today, please feel free to reach out to me directly. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jason. We really appreciate that. And I noticed, Brian, you did have a few questions in the chat, which you already answered. So thank you for doing that. And Caitlin has answered quite a few questions in the question and answer section of the app. So thank you for that. And it might be that you have a similar question to what has already been asked. So please be sure to check that out so
Hey,
you
Dawn.
have that for future reference. Yes.
I did get one question come up twice, both by direct email and in the Q&A, so I'd like to address it. So, which it might have been a little bit confusing, the information about online testing being available for 16 and 17-year-old students. In Illinois, your 16-year-old students are still not eligible to take a high school equivalency exam test, regardless of whether it's in person or online, unless they are currently enrolled in an ALOP, RSSP, or Lincoln's Challenge. So I know we have a few ALOP or RSSP programs that are also ICCB grant funded. So for example, Lawrence Education Center here in Springfield comes to mind. If you are one of those programs and you are not currently able to give your test in person and you do have a GED test taker that needs to take their test at 16, then you can follow your same documentation process as normal for your 16-year-old test taker, and we can find a way to get them to test online. But that option is only available for ALOP, RSSP programs, and Lincoln's Challenge. It's not available for traditional adult education programs. Those students do still need to wait until they turn 17 to test. Does that make sense?
Yes. And you also have a question from Nelson in the chat. I don't know if you could see that, but he was asking if you could please address the issue about Social Security number requirements that do not exist for undocumented students.
Yeah. So I know Nelson and I had talked about this probably a few weeks ago now. Social Security numbers are not required for high school equivalency testing for any of the exams. It's always recommended if a student has a Social Security number, you know, of course, both for adult education enrollment and intake and for high school equivalency testing. If they have it, it's always recommended to use it because that helps us link our data, you know, to other types of data that we would use for WIOA tracking, but it is not required. So if you have a candidate who does not have a Social Security number, they can take a high school equivalency exam. The only requirements as far as residency and citizenship are residency. So you don't have to be even an Illinois citizen to test, you just have to be an Illinois resident. Now with that in mind, it's going to be kind of hard for some undocumented students to prove residency. But the ways in which they would do that, you do have to have a government issued photo ID. It does not have to be an Illinois license. It can be a you know, a license from another state. It can be a foreign ID. I know it's very common for students to use their matricula consular ID. That's totally fine. If they are using a photo ID or a passport, if they're using a photo ID that does not have an Illinois address, they will be required to provide residency documentation. Just one type, and it does need to be backdated 30 days so that they can demonstrate they've lived in Illinois for at least a month. Those types of documentation are similar to what you would take to the DMV to get a photo ID. So those would be things like a bank statement in your name with your current Illinois address, or a phone or utility bill in your name with an Illinois address, or a voter ID card, you know, things of that nature to prove that you are able to receive mail at an Illinois address and you've lived there for at least 30 days. But a Social Security number is not required, and having an Illinois photo ID is also not necessarily required. You just have to have a government issued photo ID, and that can be either from Illinois, which would make it much easier for a student, either a state ID or a driver's license, Or if you don't have that, you can use one from another state, you can use one from another country, or you can use your passport. That's fine too. But I know that's come up recently. You know, your students don't have to have a social to take the high school equivalency test, nor should they have to enroll in adult education programming, as far as I understand. Any other questions that I've missed, Dawn?
No, I don't think so. I think we are all caught up. And Brian, thank you for engaging in the chat and answering those questions. Appreciate that. Okay, so remember that the presentation material is available already within the app. And I just have a few more slides now to close us out before we leave for the day. So thank you so much to Caitlyn, Brian, and Jason for presenting. That was a lot of information. We had a lot of attendees, so I know they appreciate all those timely updates. And again, thank you to our participants for attending and engaging in this presentation as well. Please be sure before you leave to provide feedback on this session in the app. It's really easy. All you have to do is click on the rate session button that you see there on the screen. And then you can just quickly rate the session. If you didn't get a chance to do that for other sessions this morning, please make sure you go back and do that as well. Again, we ask that you follow us on social media. Even after the conference, we do have other events throughout the year, and this is a great way to find out about them. So you can see the 3 different entities that are part of putting on this conference and where to find us on social media. Remember that we still have that live photo mosaic wall going on until 12:30 today. So please check that out. I know more photos have been added since it was displayed this morning. So that can also be viewed, and I will try to put a link in the chat for that before we leave. And finally, we want to thank our sponsors. Their participation has been wonderful, and we want to thank them. So thank you to presenters and participants, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.